Welcome to another Wealth Coffee Chat. Marvellous Monday. Hope you're well, folks, wherever you are. If you think it's Get Rich Quick, you're in the wrong place. This is the wrong podcast. This is the wrong live for you. Welcome to another Wealth Coffee Chat. Hope you're all awesome and well. Morning, folks. Good to see you. Get rid of that one. Howdy, folks. Wealth Coffee Chats, Friday. Welcome along. Hope you're well. Wasn't around yesterday. Had a bit of a catch up with my team. Did a bit of leadership training, which was kind of good. But back on the wagon this morning for Wealth Coffee Chats. Good to see a few of the regulars here. James, good morning, mate. Justin, already in the house. How you doing? Good to see you. Do the little get-togethers and warm-ups before we get cracking today. Jason Witten's my name. Most of you know that. But if you are new, if you're wandering by and you're finding the podcast, the channel for the first time, hello, welcome. What do we do around here? Well, each morning we get together and we have a coffee and a chat. But what are we really talking about, folks? We're really talking about sorting out some fact from some fear, some bullshit and some bravado and bloody fear and ignorance that the media love to feed us. And to be quite honest, lots of other institutions like to feed you with fear and ignorance as well. So we're combating that with some good old-fashioned data and info and also maybe some experienced, well-trodden opinions about things. Opinions about things that I actually do, like investing in property and have done for well over 20 years, folks. So there you go. Anyway, good morning. If you're new, welcome back. If you're returning, great to have you on this morning. Saw an interesting article about the idea that 36% of Australian properties are cheaper to buy than rent. Now, that's a pretty interesting stat, folks, as we, as property investors, try to make sense of what's going on out there in the world of property investing. Is it cheaper to buy than it is to rent? And what happens if those balances, those things, change a little bit one way or another, right? Morning, Chris. How are you, mate? Good to see you. So I thought we might talk about that and maybe some of the effects that might have in the world of property. And these are little micro bits of data, a bit of understanding. What might happen? What's going on? Where is it cheaper? Where is it more expensive? There you go. So let's do a little poll. Let's do a little commentary in the chat. Tell me, folks, if you don't know already. If you do know already, well, that's great. What state, folks, has 78%, according to PropTrack, which is realestate.com's data machine. What state has 78% of properties that you could buy from real estate on realestate.com that are actually cheaper to buy than rent? 78%. What state is 78%, folks? Put that in the chat. And what state do you think is 16%? Only 16% of properties. Marcus is all over it. He's probably He's probably read the same article I did, which is not a bad article, pretty good. In isolation, I wouldn't sort of read too much into it, but in combination with other information, then folks, yeah, there you go. The answer is Western Australia. Marcus, you're on it. Which state has 16%, folks? 16%, only 16% of the properties are available cheaper to buy than rent. And this one actually surprised me. But, there you go. Put that in the chat. See if you know what it is, because I think this type of info, you go, okay, well, let's have a look at, what that means and where would that affect us as property investors? What would go on in the world of property investing? So the answer, ladies and gents, let's put it this way. The answer is Victoria. Victoria has 16%. Now, if you think about that in reference to the population, which I think is pretty interesting. So tell me, folks, which one of these states here, and they've left out Canberra, so ACT is the actual answer, but which one after this? Have a look in here. Across the board on this property track data, which state has the highest wages, folks? Which state has the highest wages? This is an interesting one. So which state has the highest wages, folks? Put that in the chat for me as you go along, because after the ACT, which the pollies and the politicians, you would think on average, high-paid, white-collar politicians in Canberra. Now, maybe that's a very vast assumption, but there you go. Anyway, Canberra is the number one in this country. And then number two is Western Australia. So number two, but on this, is the highest wages. So you would expect that, right? You'd expect a place with higher wages. There you go. But how do we slice and dice this? We need to look at not only the share of homes, the wages, but also the average property price, right? That's the thing. But interesting. Look at this, Victoria. How many people in Victoria? What is the population? And I think all of this, when you put it together, is pretty interesting when you think about this stuff. Check out this. And now, and the other part is, all right, well, listen, there's one mind-blowing, like 1.4% of houses are cheaper to buy than to rent, right? 1.4. That means, do this on the opposite side, right? This is crazy. In Sydney, was that 98 point, is that 98? Yeah, 98.6. Is that right? Tell me if I've got that correct. Anyway, 98.6. 98.6% of houses in Sydney are cheaper to rent than to buy. Mind-blowing. Crazy. All right? So, what would happen? Now, look, tell me, what do you think? If all of those houses are cheaper to rent than to buy, the median wage isn't that high, where would the pressure be, ladies and gents, folks? Where would the pressure be in price rises? Well, we've talked about this one. I believe that, for people buying, especially in these two cities, then apartments are going to get, a fairly big part of attention when it comes to the future. Now, Brizzy's still got a bit there. Brizzy's still got a bit. Adelaide's still got a bit, when it comes to the house price. And check out this, team. Check out that. Yeah. Well, that's exactly right, Marcus. Okay, if someone's going to buy, then they can't afford a house, then they look to the next best thing. And, the apartment or the unit market, might make sense in that way. So, doesn't mean it's going to be exactly that. But when we're looking at the data, we're thinking, okay, well, where could they afford? What would they do if they wanted to get off the rent cycle, the rent roundabout or the rent wheel? Maybe that would work for, a few people. And you look at Brisbane and Adelaide, still some choices for houses. So when we're talking about, Sam talks about in the marketplace, things are extinct. He calls it the extinction of certain types of property that you and I could get access to just as regular Aussies. Well, you can see in Melbourne and Sydney that, a regular house as a comparison of things on the market is less and less likely for a lot of people, like from an affordability point of view. Now, that will change, certainly will change pretty dramatically if the interest rates come down. But on the flip side, at the same time, what will happen? If interest rates come down, what will happen to prices, folks? We all know this. There's lots of other things going on as well. But, the undersupply, the population boom, wages on the rise, et cetera, the house price will go up. Even if the interest rate comes down, there'll be a counteracting to that or a reaction to that, which will be values will increase. That's what'll happen. You guys know that. You guys know that. We know that. That's why we're trying to get in place as investors to actually make some profit into the future. Because if you're sitting on the fence, like we said the other day, you're going to get a splinter and you're going to miss out on actual money as we go. So it's really interesting to see, right? Look at this. Perth, because of its high wages, its high average wage, it's the highest average wage in Australia. Well, most of its market is quite affordable. Okay, well, that's interesting. So why would people rent? There'll be plenty of reasons. But the other markets, which are quite compressed, are going to be good rental markets, strong rental markets for us all, high demand. And very sadly, if you're on the wrong side of that, you're going to be locked into something, right? Now, it doesn't take Einstein to work out when you have a look at this is all houses and units combined. We should have pulled them apart maybe next time. But look, the idea that, the median value of a property is 1.1 million. That's a long way from somebody's affordability, right, to purchase. So if we go and have a look at the average, the average wage in Australia, average wage $1,800 a week. You times that, that's seven or $8 grand or something like that, seven something. So you go, all right, well, that's the average wage. Cool. Often what would be the average weekly rent in there is like $600 a week. Morning, Joel. How are you, mate? Good to see you. You got the average week rent, 600. You got the average wage, 1,800, which is fab, So, if you go 1,800 divided by 600, or the other way around, 600 divided by 1,800, that gives you 33%. So on average, when we look at, the balancing act, 30% of somebody's after-tax wages, I don't know if that's after-tax, actually, I didn't see, but that's okay. That's affordable, right? But let's go and have a look at right now interest rates. Let's say an average property $750. You have a look at all of those, dollars and cents there before. Let's put that back in just for a second. Anywhere from Hobart to Sydney, $750. Canberra, average it out. Combined capitals is 827. So there you go. Let's do 750, right? Let's do 750. Your payment is 3,451. So that's for your mortgage, right? So if you had 1,800, times that by 4, 7,200, 3,400 is more than 30%, way more than 30%, folks, right? So 3,451 divided by 7,400 equals, there you go. It's 46%. 46%. So anyway, is that boring or is it interesting? Well, I think it's interesting anyway. Sometimes stats can get a bit dull and dry, but there you go. To rent, on average, 30% of your income, but to buy, 46% on average And we didn't even do the combined average of a capital city, right? So that's a big gap, right? And if you have a look at where is all the population, folks, it's kind of it's on the east coast of Australia. That's where all the pressure is. Yes, there'll be some opportunity in Western Australia, and I know you can't even see that. I know a few of our team have put together some deals over in WA, which is awesome. But the majority of the population is in Queensland, New South Wales, and Victoria, folks. That's where the game is. And Sam always talks about the 5-city strategy, right? Sort of 1 city, 2 cities, 3 cities, 4 cities, right? If you can, and then we added sort of Canberra or SA if you want. We haven't added in Northern Territory or Tasmania. Not on our radar, right? But anyway, there you go. What's the takeaway? What's the point here, folks? The point is this: as properties become more unaffordable, then the renter base, the renter pool becomes more solidified for us as property investors. Low vacancy rates, more renters entering the market, certainly in housing, those product types and property types. If we look back up here, Brisbane and Adelaide certainly are places you can still get a house at the right price, and the marketplace will reward you for that. When it comes to growth, there's still compression, so still some growth to go. You'll have a look at Adelaide, and they're all pretty close in reality. That's across the whole thing, which is units and houses. But the takeaway is this: as interest rates rise, more people are forced into rentals, and that for you and I becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy, a fait accompli when it comes to our income and our future when it comes to earning a passive income from our properties, folks. There you go. Anyway, I thought that information was something worth talking about today. Just understanding what's going on out there for the average Aussie, and you and I as property investors, how we navigate that as we go. Anyway, that's about it from me today. Wealth Coffee Chat done and dusted, folks. Let's hang out next week if you're up for it. We'll do a few more of these in the mornings. Heading on into Christmas today. Merry first day of Christmas. Is it officially the first day of Christmas? I don't know. You know the song, First Day of Christmas? Is it 30 days? Who knows? I wonder if anyone knows that. I might search that up. Anyway, folks. Yeah. Yeah, well, there you go, Brendan. That's gross then. So they've got to pay tax there. Even worse, Brendan. Even worse. Gee, I tell you. So hard yakka, folks, out there for the person on an average wage. There you go. It even makes the point even more solid. Over 50% of your after-tax income for an average mortgage payment. People are going to rent, folks. People are going to rent. Unfortunately, for a lot of Aussies, that's going to be, part of what the next decade holds for a lot of them. And those who are hanging around waiting for the property prices to go down, there's still people hanging around since the GFC thinking, oh, your property prices will go down. Gee, I tell you, they don't like that. It's not like that in Australia. Anyway, there you go. I'm just rabbiting on now. That's it, folks. Done and dusted. Join me next week for another one or 2 or 5. We shall see. All right. You guys have a great weekend. Thanks for hanging out. Take care. Bye for now.